talking about race and the rise of career politicians. In this video, Simon Sinek explains that necessitates our dedication to continual growth and a readiness to persistently work towards our objectives.
When we treat DEI like a finite goal, which I think unfortunately too many companies are, and here's the uncomfortable reality of all of this stuff, right? Which is to truly make improvement and fix things, or at least improve things. It's a steady, sometimes slow process. It's like rebuilding trust in a relationship. It doesn't happen with one bouquet of flowers and a really nicely written card, even if it's really heartfelt and important and necessary. It's consistency and ongoing, right? But at the same time, we need to see gestures so that we can see. Remember, we love a metric. We love to see that something's happening. But we see it all over the place. We see it in police reform. We see it in DEI. We see a lot of companies and communities doing the short-term stuff for show that may or may not be having the impact they need to have. I'm okay with the short-term stuff for show so long as the difficult, slow work is happening behind the scenes simultaneously, right? And great companies, as we said, like good people, and by the way, there's no competitors in the infinite game because you can't beat anybody. There's only other players, right? The only true competitor is yourself. How do we become a better version of ourselves today than we were yesterday? And so all of these things, George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd forced our nation to hold a mirror up to ourselves. And just to go as an aside, after Floyd was murdered, I called some of my African-American friends and I needed advice, how to have difficult conversations. I wanted to hear how they were, And on some of the conversations, I was crying. And I asked them, there's some things happened with all of them. I said, I'm crying. How come you're not crying? And they said, because I'm exhausted. They said, this is new for you. This is not new for me. They said, I lived this life. You're just seeing it for the first time because the whole scene was captured. We've been talking about this, but usually you just see the dead body in the street and we don't see what led up to it. What made George Floyd important was the camera, that we got to see it.
Some people may not fully comprehend the impact of racism because they only hear about it secondhand rather than experiencing it themselves. There are two ways to address race: responding to others' comments or initiating a racially charged conversation. The former is more common while the latter is often used by racists. Some argue that race is a social construct and that discussing it only creates division based on a falsehood. Others believe that discussing race is necessary but caution against assuming all white people are racist and all non-white people are victims of racism. It's crucial to approach conversation about race with an open mind and listen to those who have experienced racism firsthand. If you are unsure or uncomfortable about discussing a topic, it's important to acknowledge that you may make mistakes. Many leaders achieve their position by being skilled at getting things right, but this can lead to confirmation bias and difficulty admitting when they are wrong. In difficult conversations, it's okay to make mistakes and apologize for them. When it comes to fighting racism, it's important to have open discussions and call out bigotry, even if it means inconvenience those who reinforce a racism system. Ignoring racism only allows it to continue unchecked. Emotions are often involved in difficult conversations, and it's important to acknowledge and make room for them as they can drive change. Managers often use the phrase learning opportunity in the workplace to encourage employees who show promise for career growth. To prove their capabilities, the employee must exhibit mastery in particular skill, which they can then add to their resume when applying for a promotion. This approach usually results in the employee being promoted.
You cannot have a successful marriage without compromise. You cannot be a successful person unless your views change as you get older and wiser, right? It's only in politics where you have to believe the same thing for 30 years, otherwise you're a bad person. It's only in politics where talking to the side and trying to find common ground is considered the devil's work. I call bull, and I've worked with both sides because I preach bipartisanship. I won't work with a candidate, but I'll work with parties, and I've worked with both parties, and I can tell you some funny stories. And I've had private conversations, and I'll tell you one of them. So I sat down with a congressman, just me and the congressman, no staffers around us, and I had the uncomfortable conversation, which I wouldn't have publicly with them because it's just inappropriate. And I said, you know what your problem is you're not willing to sacrifice for this country. I said, I know men and women who wear a uniform who would lay down their lives for this country, and you won't even give up your job for this country. Oh, and by the way, if you lost your election, you're going to become a lobbyist or some consultant, and you'll make more money than you've ever dreamed of. So my question is, what exactly are you losing, whether you keep your job or lose your job? The answer is nothing, power. And, right. And, but the point is that they're in a win-win situation. I'm either powerful or I got cash. Like, that's your choice. And he looked at me and said, you're right. None of us are willing to, and this is not what our founding fathers intended. Our founding fathers intended that you would leave your law practice, you would leave your farm, you'd come serve your nation for a few cycles, and then you go back to your career. We have professional politicians now, people who've been in office for 30 years. They actually don't know how to do anything else. Take anybody who's been doing something for 30 years and say, you're going to stop doing it. And fear is the motivation as well. Our founding fathers never wanted a class of professional politician. That was never in the design of this nation.
It is easy to create a division between groups in politics by promoting an us versus them mentality. This tactic has been used by many politicians throughout history, such as during the Cold War, when many rose to power by promoting fear of communism. More recently, politicians have used ethno-nationalism to target specific groups, such as anti-Serb or anti-Croat sentiments in the former Yugoslavia. National security is a popular platform for politicians, and terrorism, particularly that which is associated with Islam, has become a major threat in many parts of the world. As a result, Islam has been categorized as them in political discourse. Similarly, anything left of the Democratic Party in American politician is often labeled as socialist, even if it does not fit that definition. The comparison between being fruits and vegetables and the nature of work being discussed is not applicable. Politicians work tirelessly to climb the ranks from a local representative to a national figure, often sacrificing family time and personal finances. They may face physical harm during protest or even imprisonment. However, once established, they enjoy many benefits. Civil servants must adhere to laws and complete their work during office hours, sometimes requiring longer hours. In Western societies, the rise of politics as a profession has led to a political class of career politicians with little experience outside of politics. The cutthroat nature of political life often creates sinks who prioritize making connections within the party hierarchy over serving voters. As a result, politicians may not be connected to the issues facing society today and instead focus on making empty promises for the sake of gaining power. Most ordinary people do not have enough money to transition into a career in politics, and it is important to note that once someone decides to run for public offices, they become a professional politician. However, the current political climate has caused many to question the government's action and promises. The gap between what was promised and what was delivered is significant. For example, those who voted for Brexit may not have fully understood what they were voting for. The question of democratic still rises when considering how many people are against it. While some claim that the majority still wants something else, this is not certain, and this is a case to be made for re-evaluating the decision. Hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching. For more videos like these, subscribe.